And in the bottom left side, we're looking at the main base of the man who made it to the GSL Coda semi-finals last season. And let's see how well he can do here. He's chugging along. It is Bunny. It's like a double chug.
Yeah.
A little more.
Because I'm finishing this bottle right now.
It's like, oh, the camera's rolling. Look at me. Uh-oh.
Yes, already one pylon down on the bottom side of the map, and obviously looking for a gateway here. Nice and quickly MaxPax to open up with, and well, we've seen this from MaxPax. It is the MaxPax, right? This is his favorite build. There is no way Bunny will not be prepared against this to some extent, I'd imagine, and especially after Bunny's GSL series the other day against Parting. This was one of those things that kind of kept coming up, like different ways to be aggressive early. Honestly, Bunny had some really good early game responses. It was really fun to see. I'm excited if he can just have, you know, a little bit of a better performance, because he did die in the early game, but he had some really incredible micro to try and save him at points too. So I'm kind of excited to see if we get some of that already.
Yeah, you mentioned the MaxPax, and MaxPax was obviously one of the very first prototypes to ever go for the pylon, and another pylon, and a gateway on the other side of the map, but now we have different follow-ups too, right? In the old days, it was always Zealot, Stalker, and I'll run into the natural, try to get economically ahead. Meanwhile, you drop the Nexus at home, you get a quick Twilight, and you just play Stalkers with Blink and Zealots with Charge, and you just kind of play it from a favorable position. Now, we've already seen him with the double gas follow-up, and we've already seen him follow this up with Void Rays. And now it becomes tricky as well, because this is not your traditional Void Ray shield battery rush. It's a lot more about the gateway units in a weird way than it is about the Void Rays. And I was just thinking, while we hopped into this game, I was like, Clem had tanks, right? Clem had 2 tanks out, but both times the tanks basically siege and they died immediately. What if Clem would have put that tank a little bit more towards the right side on Beckett, near that bunker? That if you really want to go for that tank, you are forced to commit, you're forced to run away from these batteries. I mean, Bunny probably saw that game, probably Bunny had some time to think about how he wants to deal with this. Let's get it on. More Protoss chatter. I just had some Doritos Nacho Cheese, and that was just to get into the spirit.
Yeah, this is kind of funny, because this is actually what happened to Bunny in the GSL as well. He got MaxPaxed into a proxy Stargate. Void Rays in his face, and that's what was one of the more entertaining early games, I thought, because there were some really tense moments with Cyclones getting away and surviving for as long as possible. That was very exciting. So let's see what happens here. I mean, he never tried to expand on the low ground, right? He never tried to defend there, so that's always good news. Of course, it does mean that MaxPax is getting set up on Bunny's natural expansion. The Bunny, oh, that's a little bit of a slowed down Cyclone as well. So a little supply block here going to affect him, and that's a fairly big deal when every unit counts when you need it as soon as possible.
Yep. One of the biggest talking points, obviously, after that Clem game on Beckett was that Clem never got Macfield Accelerator. We don't know if that was a choice or if that was an honest mistake, but he basically had minutes to potentially research it, so it's hard to believe that that was a mistake. Obviously, you see it at the Cyclones too. The moment that upgrade is done, there are little red lasers coming out of the top, and basically they melt any armored unit. So far, I kind of like the setup of Bunny, but I can only imagine that MaxPax has been in this situation, this exact spot, time and time again. Let's see if these Void Rays and Stalkers can start gunning down the depot and open up the doors to the main base.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see the Void Ray activate, and we'll just grab an SCV. Cyclone does get its lock on, of course. Any damage you can do right now is great, because you're already draining down battery energy, which is only going to improve your life and your time defending here further down the line.
Oh, careful. Oh, that's a lot of damage on that Cyclone, but it does live. You have to be very careful getting it in range now again. Bunny's confident enough that he can do it. Does get another lock on it. Breaks almost immediately. 2 Void Rays right now, full of confidence. Gonna fight these Marines, and we do have our second Cyclone popping. Macfield Accelerated now more than 70% done.
Yeah, once Macfield's up, it's a completely different ballgame, as Bunny keeps this depot alive as well for a very long time. Obviously never built a second depot in the wall either, which means there's only one vulnerable depot, so that's something to keep in mind as well, as MaxPax will put in an additional Stalker 2 here. Macfield is about to be done. We are getting to a very important stage here for Bunny, as that bunker might drop. He's actually locked onto the batteries, and he misses the force field MaxPax. He's not going to kill anything here.
And that was actually one of the batteries that just finished up. A lot of these batteries have been drained. There was one battery still full on energy in the bottom. The other ones are starting to slowly but steady regenerate some extra energy. Finally, the doors are open, but this took such a long time. We can see those beautiful red lasers coming out of the Cyclone. And as long as Bunny doesn't mess up the micro, I'd love to see him just repair his Cyclone again. With 3 Cyclones with Macfield done, I have a hard time believing that Stalkers and Void Rays can make the difference here.
Yeah, usually this is the point in the game where the Protoss needs to have killed a couple of those tech units to still have a chance, because the upgrades are now in play. This is where I get very, very worried for MaxPax. Let's see if he can make something happen. Let's see if these Zealots can tank enough damage. Obviously, he has been focusing on those ground warpings, but Bunny's army's just getting larger. And MaxPax, he ain't doing anything right now. He's not building a thing.
Yep, he does have one force field. There is a single force field available right now. And if you land that force field between the orbiter and the starport, that can actually make things very, very complicated for these Cyclones. You obviously want to make sure that the Cyclones lock on the Zealots, or maybe that Sentry, preferably over the Stalkers and the Void Rays, because everything dies so quick. Now these units just locked on the battery. Bunker is going to be a little bit exposed. Then we do have 2 force fields go down as we wiped in one more Sentry. That Bunker is taking a lot of damage, but this still doesn't look good enough for MaxPax. Nowhere near good enough even.
No, you get a Bunker, you get one Cyclone. Obviously the Void Rays are taking a beating there as well. And once again, battery energy is hard to come by. There's a Void Ray sat there that was not being healed up for a little bit. So we do not have a lot of healing left over. There's a tank here to help against the ground army. And of course, Bunny still has a lot of firepower against the Void Rays.
He's repositioning the tank right when MaxPax runs up this ramp. What is MaxPax going to go for? MaxPax is indecisive. That's not something everyone to be. What a sick pickup on that Cyclone with the medevac. Bunny is keeping all his Cyclones alive. And I feel like this Protoss party is over before it ever even truly began.
Yeah, it was a beautiful hold, honestly, from start to finish from Bunny. He never let this get out of hand. MaxPax never found that critical damage. He gets a Viking snipe now. That's great and all, but you've got Void Rays that don't really have much power left in them. They're all on their own.
That tank can even get a little bit closer and start getting in range of the batteries. Bunny seems to agree with that. Now, of course, it does mean that MaxPax could potentially go for it while still being healed by these batteries, but MaxPax knows that this rush is pretty much all over, so he's going to drop the Nexus. But you can just think that you're going to be able to expand, and Bunny's going to sit at home for the next few minutes. He knows that, and that's why he's going to try to buy some extra time. Finally does get a second Cyclone. That's nice.
Yeah, there's definitely something, but it's obviously one of those things as well where, again, you commit in, and here we come with a drop across the map too. So now MaxPax has to worry about being back at home defending. We're not far away from seeing Bunny realistically push down this ramp and break out. And if he gets across the map anytime soon, if he can force a straight-up fight, it's not a fair fight.
Yep, we saw that yesterday as well, right, in one of the Hero Marine games, where it's just like, okay, that's a pretty good Terran army. It may not have +1, it may not have stim, but there's just no way to fight it with basic gateway units that don't have charge, don't have blink, and you don't have any of those forge upgrades either. Like even wiping in one slow Zealot here, what is that going to do? Absolutely nothing. I don't say this often, Waddy, but not even battery overcharge would make you win that fight because you simply have no DPS in these defensive units.
Yeah, I actually love that Bunny just sits on the natural, doesn't try and go up to a battery either, just sort of says, yeah, I'll be happy if I just slow your natural down, stop your mining here, etc. This is fun. He actually kills the Zealot, still microing those units as well. He does now get caught by some force fields on the Cyclone lock-ons enough. He does get one Void Ray, and he is going to get another with the Viking shot as well. Beautifully done, and these Marines are still just going on this Nexus, forces the recall, so Bunny is out of there. And of course, now you clean up the natural, and now anti-fight isn't going to happen with a ton of battery healing.
Yep, you just clean this up, you take care of all these leftover Protoss buildings, and then I think you start running towards the other side of the map. I like the idea of maybe sending the Vikings into the main base, or at least they will find that initial proxy, but I think they can potentially go into the main while your Marines and the tanks and those leftover Cyclones, they can just start pressuring the natural. That Nexus is still going to be a little bit low on HP. MaxPax will drop the Twilight Council. I mean, he's up 3 workers, but these things are super deceiving and not very meaningful, because MaxPax's army is simply straight up going to suck for quite some time. While this army of Bunny, it may not have stim and combat shield, but that's a mighty fine looking army against basic Protoss units.
Honestly, for MaxPax, it's probably going to feel like those Marines have stim and combat shield, because there's just so much damage output in this army. I mean, you're on your way to a Twilight Council that isn't even finished yet, so you can't even start up whatever your plan may be. We're never going to see it. We might see it start, but we'll never see it make it into the game, as here we go. There is a battery that will overcharge, and, well, Bunny will wait that out, and that might be the final push.
Yep, the one thing you don't want to do here is take a silly fight where you get close to killing many Protoss units, but you don't quite kill them. Units lost resource step is 5,800 resources going down from MaxPax, only 2.7k for Bunny so far, and that's even after he already lost his Cyclone. He's going to kill these leftover Void Rays, these Stalkers without blink, they don't stand a chance, and game 1 is all over. Our Korean Terran player Bunny will take the 1-0 lead here in the upper bracket match of Group B, and he honestly looked mighty fine in doing so, but Waddy, don't think he was ever in any true trouble.
No, I honestly feel like this was such a clean defense, right? The depot at the front never went down. You know, that bunker stayed up a very long time. Only lost one Cyclone very deep into the game, where I think it's kind of fine to kind of do something like that as well. So, oh wow, we're going for round 2 on the border. Amazing. All right, well, we're powering up again as Bunny up 1-0. Yeah, you just, once you don't do damage early, it's a build where you know, you're taking advantage of, oh, I got rid of a Cyclone, and that really snowballs very quickly. If that never happens, it's very tough to make anything happen.
I think the unit positioning by Bunny was just top-notch, where that tech lab technically felt like, ooh, that's a little bit close towards where the Void Race could potentially be, backed up by those batteries. We never even got close to killing that tech lab. We never even attacked the tech lab.
Yeah.
No, because there was no opportunity to really go for it. The positioning was just top-notch, and while I feel when MaxPax played against Clem, every single time he dropped the force field, bam, guaranteed Cyclone kills, sometimes even Cyclone and the Viking. This time the force fields, they were just a little bit late, not quite on the money, and that's why he couldn't get those guaranteed kills. Bunny obviously had that one sweet save as well on that one Cyclone that was ultra low HP with the medevac. Not even stuff that you really think of, but it was an excellent hot pickup, and he looked excellent here in game 1.
He really, really did look excellent going up to that 1-0 lead, and I wonder what MaxPax goes with now. Obviously, he is capable of doing very different things, of playing much more normal, but whenever he opens with like a Void Ray Rush, I always feel like he's like, oh yeah, you know, this is one of my go-tos. I feel comfortable for this to get me into that 1-0 lead and give me a bit more freedom in the longer game. So I'm a little bit concerned, because I really thought if Bunny would have troubles, it would be early game.
Yeah. Or, like, I can see maybe in the Blink Stalker phase, right? Where Bunny can be sometimes a bit stubborn, and he's like, well, I've got 8 units, but I'm still going to send 6 to the other side of the map. And then he could potentially take too much damage at home. I don't really want to see MaxPax do the build that he used against Clem, and that sounds really dumb, because he won against Clem with it, and he doesn't beat Clem too often. But I think that Bunny has played quite a few times against that. I'd love to see MaxPax just focus on the defense early, and then try to get ahead in the mid game, and potentially drag it to the ultra late game. Because as much as I love our Korean Terran, he is not a god with Ghost, Liberator, Advanced Ballistics. No, he does his best work in the early mid game. When he has a lot of bio units, he can just drop all over the place. But we'll see what happens here on the Romanticide. This man is now one map away from making it into the quarterfinals of the DreamHack Masters Fall Season Finals, which would guarantee him $3,000. This is Bunny.
In the top left-hand side from Storm Gaming, his first season finals, it is MaxPax.
We don't talk about like the prize pool all the time and stuff, but even just winning that opening series is a pretty big deal for MaxPax, because that guarantees him $750 more than if he would have finished at the bottom of this group. So if you win your opening match, you obviously guarantee top 3 in this group. And there's a little difference there, and also a little difference with EPT points. I don't think a lot of us are doubting on whether or not MaxPax is gonna make it to the Into Extreme Masters Katowice at the end of the second season of the ESL Pro Tour, but it's still nice to just lock it up ASAP.
Yep, obviously the sooner you know, and I mean, to be fair as well, it's not always a question of if you get to go, but what seed do you get as well, right? Because there's that cutoff where you actually go straight into groups versus into the qualifier bracket. So it's not a necessarily just a, oh yeah, I'm top whatever, I'm definitely going. The better seeds actually mean a lot, and it might even mean easier groups as well, right? So a lot to play for. ESL points are very, very important. And so just going to be seeing ourselves nice early scouts. Command center coming down, and the factory to follow, so just much more regular across the board for game 2.
Yeah, MaxPax actually went Nexus before Cybercore, right? Like, I never want to make too big of a fuss of it, even though for the pro gamers it is a big difference. But most of the time it doesn't really matter unless your opponent really is doing something ultra specific that's very aggressive in the early game. But kind of felt like it fell a bit out of fashion. I thought all the Protoss players universally agreed upon, like, you know what, let's not be too stubborn, let's just go Cybercore before Nexus. But MaxPax still wants to get that Nexus up those couple of seconds earlier.
Yeah, it's one of those things where obviously the meta shifting, obviously we've seen so many less Reaper openings, right? So you're like, well, less Reapers, I can go, you know, Nexus, then core a little bit more easily. You know, I don't need my first units quickly all of the time, and especially on Romanticide where it's already a long map to go across with that Adept. I don't think it's a bad thing to get that next a few seconds early, right? It's one of the things, you know, we see from MaxPax and PVZ all the time. He really just prioritizes economy and getting to the best possible position as quickly as he can, and that's obviously what he's doing here.
You think Bunny is going to go for a double Hellion into Widowmine drop build, where it's like 2 Hellions and then we're going to build a couple of mines and then the medevac and the Hellions all show up in the natural and you just kind of bulldoze your way through?
Yeah, I think so, right? I mean, it's very popular just because you do have that multi-prong potential, right? And it can go so wrong if you let it. Yeah, it looks that is going to be the case. It's one of those nice builds as well where because of the Hellions too, if it's like a Stargate, which would typically be very good against something like this, you still maybe have the chance of catching units out of position and so on, as that probe just took a brilliant turn to get away from that Hellion.
Nice scouting with the Adept. I believe he did catch a glimpse of one of these Widow Mines. And obviously it's still around. MaxPax just trying to get as much information as possible. It's important that we do not let the Hellions sneak in too early. You don't really want to throw away your Hellions, but the Stalker is there in the correct spot. So these Hellions have nowhere to go. Really? Is that probe still alive?
Yeah, it did. He didn't see it, but the Hellion actually moved away at the perfect time. MaxPax does miss the Widow Mine drop moving out. Still sees the factory on the reactor. Nice fake from Bunny, kept it on for a little while, and now the Adept is surrounded.
Yep, that Adept is gonna fall. We'll take one SCV with it. Stalk a little bit out of position. Current Stalker count for MaxPax is 4. 3 of them are in the natural. 1 Stalker is just chasing those Hellions away. And the moment they are in the correct spot, but sometimes we see Protoss players kind of change their mind. They send them towards the main base when they shouldn't. At this point, with Blink finishing up as well, this is actually looking pretty good for MaxPax, if you ask me. Bunny's still gonna go for it.
What?
Loses the medevac with 2 Widow Mines inside of it. And this is just turning into an absolutely disastrous opening. As yeah, there's a little bit of lost mining time, but in no universe is this good enough for Bunny.
Because now MaxPax can go across the map if he wants to as well. There is nothing to force him to keep units at home.
Oh.
And there's 4 gateways up, right? So he can warp in a lot of Stalkers. And obviously Bunny invested so much into early Widow Mines and Hellions that will not help in this fight. So he is in some trouble.
Yep, he's in serious trouble. At this point, he's got nothing. Now, we do have 1 tank about to pop, but we know how it goes. 1 tank is often not enough to prevent these Protoss players from blinking forward and getting on top of your tank immediately. Do we have a full wall of in the natural? Yes, we do. He left 1 Stalker behind. Oh, Blinks away.
Nelly. Nelly had the perfect moment on those Hellions as the Observer comes forward to obviously scout out what exactly we're about to attack into here. All of these Stalkers are going to get ready to make a play. Second bunker building not ready yet, and the SCVs pull. And there's just a couple extra Stalkers, and where they're going to go for, just the natural for now.
MaxPax has not been building probes for quite some time, so he does put himself in a position where he needs to make magic happen with these Stalkers, but he's going for one of these tanks immediately, and he does get it. That Observer took some damage. You definitely don't want to lose your Observer too early, otherwise you're going to be forced to put the Prism in kind of a dangerous spot, a bit too far forward. MaxPax, with the way he has played this, he needs to do a lot of damage here, but it's also guaranteed you're going to do a lot of damage, because Bunny simply does not have the units to really prevent these Stalkers from going to town on his SCVs, and the bunker falls as well.
Yeah, I mean, now these Marines can just be chipped away at. Bunny is already starting to evacuate the natural expansion. And another siege tank finally down to the low ground. In order turret to aid it, these Stalkers, maybe too many Marines just to jump on top of the tank, but you can just sit on the other side of the base still.
I gotta say, I really like the way that he put down that other turret, because that is what allowed the other tank to go a bit further forward. And Siege, will he blink on that tank? No, he won't. Kind of messes up the blink there. 1 or 2 Stalkers do go down. This was really good for MaxPax. He's up 15 workers. He now finally drops the 3rd Nexus. I do gotta say, though, you might need a little bit more, or you just need to make sure that this goes on for a bit longer. Because if these armies clash in a straight-up fight the moment Stim is done, Bunny's army is obviously better. Yeah,
and this is exactly what the Prism and 4 Stalkers are for. Into the main base, able to get some damage done. Bunny's just going to salvage that bunker with a tank there. 3 SCVs go down, and now it looks like we're going to continue the attack in the main, but that's exactly where Bunny is. Stim is finished, so it's going to be scary.
Yep, this is a little bit risky. Marines are moving out of position, though, so now he's going to blink on top of this tank right when the Marines walked away. I don't know if 8 or 9 Marines would have really made the difference there, but maybe if they would have hopped into that bunker immediately, it would have gone a bit better. Quite a few Stalkers are going to fall here, but not before 10, 12 additional SCVs have gone down. And obviously MaxPax can do this all day as long as he keeps on resetting the tank count. That's a little painful there in the end, but the worker count before it's like, you're up 15 workers, that's nice. Now he's up 30 workers. That's very nice.
30 workers with tech on the way, right? Them Colossi coming through is going to make a big difference as well. As Bunny is going to go dropping across the map, and maybe if this drop can get in, get a bunch of workers right away and keep alive, that's the important thing. If this drop dies, well, you're just down an army as well then, so you need to get in, deal damage, and get out. That's going to be tough, but he is going to get there before the Colossus. The Stalkers are still in the middle of the map. Maybe a slight bit of hope.
See if MaxPax can see this or not. Yep, he is going to see it immediately. Recall will be activated. 1 Stalker takes a little bit of damage, but Bunny obviously knows that when the other Stalkers get the recall, it's time for him to get the hell out of here. He is going to try to recover economically. We might get a 2-4-1 here. That Observer's in a dicey spot. It's a bit sloppy by MaxPax to leave his Prism AFK. Bunny obviously wants to get the ups too, and he does get it. And with the Raven, is there a world where you can say the Raven gathers up a bunch of energy, you drop a double interfere? Oh no, look at all these probes on follow. MaxPax, we're gonna have to fix that, mate.
Yeah, okay, fixes that now. I mean, the third has been up for a little while. Not sure how long they've been like that for. It's this push or die trying for Bunny, and like you say, it's going to come down to this Raven. It's only going to have one Matrix, so at the very least, you're going to have one Colossus on top of your army. But MaxPax...
10 Marauders though, Wardy.
Yeah.
With 10 Marauders, one Colossus is not going to be able to keep 10 Marauders at bay. MaxPax trying to go up to 4 bases, and now he puts himself in an awkward spot with these Stalkers. I'm actually a little bit concerned here. Like, battery is good, we should have an overcharge. There is the overcharge, but this army is actually really not that good with only a single Colossus firing.
Yep, and charge wasn't done, so the Zealots couldn't join right away. Stalkers can't get into the fight just yet. Bunny getting on top of MaxPax's third base. I mean, now is the awkward moment, right? The Raven isn't going to be useful. It's out of energy. The Colossi will be able to join up, and, well, the Stalker's making sure there's no reinforcements coming across the map either. Here we go. MaxPax will commit in. Oh, nicely done with the Widow Mines. Just setting those off on single Zealots means that MaxPax doesn't take that much damage. The tank target firing Colossi is going pretty well. The Marines will stim back to help with the Stalkers. There's just too much MaxPax left over.
It's just so nice for MaxPax that he at least took care of the tanks there, right? Because, yeah, these leftover bio units could be annoying, but if there are no tanks to really back them up, that means you can just keep on chasing them. Bunny with a little bit of a misclick there too. Loses the Raven, loses the medevac full of bio units, and I would not be surprised if Bunny would have just tapped out there. Instead, he's going to try to sing this one out a little bit longer. Maybe he clicked on these Protoss units and he's like, you've got no upgrades yet. Maybe in an ideal world, you don't even have a Forge. We know +1 is close to finishing up.
Wow.
Well done by MaxPax there. Got a little bit dicey, but it's very good that he was patient when one of the 2 Colossus was disabled and that battery was always going to die. Sometimes you see Protoss players take a stubborn fight. They blink in with their Stalkers. The slow Zealots run forward. It really could have gone bad.
I thought Bunny had +1 attack, by the way, because he's got +1 armor, but he doesn't. So that's a little bit of an odd one for Bunny. Maybe a mistake there, as you do see our Zealots are going to get turned around too. I mean, these are some freebies right now. Just going to get rid of some bits and pieces. And that's obviously nice for Bunny to at least hold up to a third base.
Oh, you're spot on. That's actually very odd. That must be a mistake, because I can't really imagine a world where we prefer a +1 armor over attack on the bio.
And now he starts the armory as though he wants to go like +2 attack, right? I feel like he obviously thinks he's got it. Zealots will once again not do much, so another nice pickup for Bunny. If MaxPax keeps throwing units at Bunny and not getting much done, it helps Bunny out, right? It puts him in the right direction, but there's still a long way to go.
Took us 5 PVTs, but we are going to see our first Dark Templars and our first Disruptor one.
Yeah, nice to see a bit of later game TVP units being brought into play, as we are set with Zealots to go into the main. And of course, this is MaxPax's strength right now, being able to send a DT here, Zealots in the main. Of course, it is romanticized, so there's that little bit of a defender's kind of, setup where you can just be a bit safer. Nice scout. Gonna give him some good response time.
This is very big. There's a couple of extra seconds. That could potentially be the second Prism already that's gonna go down. I don't think you can ever recall that bad boy out, so the Prism goes down. 4 Zealots go down. That's a Prism and 4 Zealots for 4 SCVs. Well, sure, MaxPax can afford it, and that's the kind of stuff that you're like, okay, that's not that big of a deal. But don't forget, we're also only working with a single Robo. You lost a Prism, you lose another Prism, you lose an Observer. It also means you're going to have less power units out, because I believe the current Immortal count is 0. And Protoss armies without Immortals, they can actually melt surprisingly quick.
Yes, everything in his army, right, as another Observer goes down, everything in his army can melt very quickly. 10 Zealots doesn't even seem that sizable. Would be much worse if, of course, Bunny actually had +1 attack, which he's on his way to, as Bunny's the one moving out. I find that surprising. Yeah,
maybe Bunny feels that he otherwise falls too far behind, but if he would know what we know, and that's MaxPax only at 68 probes, single Forge, single Robo, this is actually not the right moment. But if you move out and you leave enough units at home, now you do need to worry about these Purification Novas, as the first connection is quite decent. But what if you just joined this game right now, and you look at the numbers at the bottom, you're like, we've got a game on our hands. And a little while ago, it did not feel like we were ever going to get a game on our hands when MaxPax was 30 workers ahead and a base ahead.
And MaxPax just missed that Widow Mine as well, so that might get something a bit further down the line. Bunny does not quite catch that DT. Blink finishing for DTs as well, of course, helping with that one. I like where Bunny's getting to. He's going to get up to the Ghost Academy, and I do think Bunny is one of the most terrifying players if you can get to a later game army. And MaxPax has been a bit shaky sometimes on these kind of armies before he gets like ultimate late game. So yeah, you're right. If you look at it right now and you say, well, the Terrans up in workers, etc. Yeah, I kind of don't mind it so much for Bunny if you forget about what happened earlier. He's got a 4th base, I believe, ready to move out soon as well. So we should be kind of going up to 4 bases each, and that would be pretty nice.
I'm just kind of surprised that MaxPax has never gone above 68
Yeah.
probes. This is kind of what I was talking about with Ben earlier today. MaxPax never took his third and fourth gas, or at least at the third base, so I guess he does have 6 gases now, but he could have had a few more. And if you want to make that many Dark Templars, having all those gases up and running is nice. And if you keep losing your observers and stuff, having a second throw ball is also nice. And that's where all these gases could really come in handy. Because I feel that MaxPax has put himself in a little bit of a problematic spot now. He's by no means losing this game, because he does still have +2. He's got Colossus, he's got Dark Templars with Blink, but he has put himself in a spot where he kind of needs to win a fight again. And perhaps he's already doing that.
This CC just took forever to lift up and go away because he's dealing with the DTs at the same time. DTs which did a ton of damage. 16 SCVs have already fallen. Now you lose the 4th base. That's a big deal. And that is Bunny going from kind of looking to be in an okay spot to once again just trailing behind. The 4th was really critical. It's just that stage of the game where you kind of need it, as he does stop his 2-2 upgrades with that armor once again in the lead.
Yep. I mean, well done there by MaxPax, because if nothing would have happened in the next 60 seconds, I would have been like, man, I really feel like this game is starting to slip away. Instead, he gets a commanding victory with all those Dark Templars with Blink, fire forward a couple of Novas, gets a nice double kill on Marauders there, and even took a Widowmine with him too. The rest of the Saren army doesn't look all that big. Without a War Prism, you need to be a little bit careful here. But I guess MaxPax will just believe in his positioning and will believe in the never-ending string of Purification Novas that he's sending towards Bunny's main army.
Yeah, he can just force Bunny away every single time. DTs blink away as they are EMP'd, as Bunny will come back across. Still struggling to get a 4th base restarted here, as he will try and take a bit of a fight. He's going to get the first disruptor that fires. The next one does sort of connect. It's going to be seen our Vikings still coming through, and it's only Stalkers and 2 Colossi. I get worried that it can all die very quickly, but there is just too much from MaxPax, and the relentless DTs into the 3rd of Bunny is a massive problem as well. MaxPax closes out a game that he was winning all the time. Just should have maybe been easier. Good fight back, honestly, from Bunny.
Yep, I think Bunny definitely played well in the mid-game where he made the best of an incredibly dire situation. MaxPax also displayed, I think, just that he's becoming a lot more mature in his play, because when he was in a great spot, but he was being attacked at his 3rd base, I really think that could have gone bad. Where some days you're like, okay, 1 interference matrix, but I'm just gonna attack. I've got Stalkers on the right, Zealots on the left. That really could have been a bad fight if he lost his patience and he would have gone for it. But instead he's like, no, I'll wait until the interference matrix wears off. I'll wait until charge is done, and that's when he got a much better fight. Just took out the tanks. I think he made it a little bit harder on himself than he should have been by staying on single robo for so long and never going above 68 probes. But right when it started to look like it's actually becoming a bit tricky, you need something good to happen, he's like, well, I've got something good. I've got 6 DTs with Blink ready to hop into that 3rd base of Bunny, and at the same time I'm gonna kill his 4th command center, and yeah, that's kind of was it.
Yeah, I mean, Bunny just finding that first medevac in was really questionable. It just, you see 4 Stalkers there, like if you see 2, I'm like, okay, we go for this, right? But then you have 4 Widowmines to get out as well. Some of this Blink Stalker micro is a little bit iffy, right? You lost more Stalkers than needed, and maybe that helped Bunny to claw this back to a somewhat respectable position. He actually did fairly well in a lot of these fights, Bunny. He did as best he could for a long, long time. And that Raven staying alive there too, that auto turret going down, very nearly got itself away, but then you lost the medevac. And yeah, eventually, obviously, MaxPax is going to end up on just way too much from that kind of position. But you were right. Like, if MaxPax had taken what he had and just said 80 workers, you know, double robo, double forge, Bunny's army is just like, oh, because Bunny couldn't attack in the first place. So, like, you know, then you're just like, you just rolling him. Instead, it was kind of like one bad fight away from being a Bunny game. Yep,
fortunately for MaxPax and all the Protoss fans out there, that one bad fight never happened. Our decider map is going to take place on Lightshade. It's like any Beckett today, but apparently we're not going back to Beckett. This is a big match for both of them, because you cannot forget, this is not one of these groups where it's like, oh yeah, these two are the overwhelming favorites. No, there is that French guy called Liquid Clum who's still in the group, and he needs to win the next 2 series to make it out. So this could very well be, for both of them, the ultimate opportunity to make it into the quarterfinals, because if you lose here, it only gets harder.
It is not an easy road in that lower bracket, absolutely not. I think just getting first place in your group means so much as well, because that gives you that chance of maybe not facing a Titan, right, when you get to the round of 8 as well. So,
are you calling Big Game not a Titan?
I'm talking about the other groups, of course.
Okay.
No, but I mean, there's that chance, right, where maybe you find the one weaker group and, you know, the second place is really up for grabs a bit more, and, you know, maybe that's the start of your really, really deep run. So, First place can go a long way, whereas obviously if you finish second, you're going to face one at the top of the top. No matter what, as we go to the top left corner of Lightshade, can he keep the games a-rolling in his favor? Tying it up 1-1, it is MaxPax.
And in the bottom right side, we're looking at the main base of our Korean Terran player representing Envy. It is Bunny. Yeah, obviously it's funny how both games are romanticized. It almost felt like they got decided at the first matter of fact. Like PvT is a matchup that people talk about for days, and some say that the Protoss have easier or better tools, but it can go many ways, and all the games play out in somewhat of a unique way. But something that we can all agree upon is, especially if Terran goes factory before command center, you better get something done with your initial opening. Otherwise, yes, the Protoss is indeed in a marvelous spot, and more often than not, they will just run away with it. You cannot go factory before CC, open up with a Widow Mine, drop 4 Widow Mines, 1 medevac, and then just only get 2 Widow Mines out, lose the medevac immediately. None of the burrow, unburrow, micro, none of the second wave, let's try to get lucky again, no monster shots. Those kinds of games are almost impossible to play out at this level, unless the Protoss really messes up.
Yep, and of course then MaxPax had 4 gates of Blink Stalkers as well, right? So you need to keep those at home until you've made up for having built 4 Widow Mines and 2 Hellions, which obviously never really happened in that game because, well, Medevac died, MaxPax came straight across the map, and Bunny was barely able to get a defense together against the initial round of Stalkers as this probe being as annoying as possible, but that will be a command center. The Marine is about to pop out. And of course, just a Nexus already on the way on the base of MaxPax.
So Marine into Reactor for Bunny. I'm actually quite curious to see what the follow-up is going to be. So far, he's still on a single refinery. He's not mining a whole lot of gas. Bunny got a 3-Rex here.
Could be. It's a good map for 3 racks as well, right? Where you're able to just go across the map very quickly. You've got a couple different ramps you can approach from as well. So if your opponent doesn't have great map vision, you can obviously catch them a bit off guard with that. Obviously, Barracks 2 went down, and we are expecting a Barracks 3. That SCV is lining up for it, and then it says, no, I want to mine gas instead. A different SCV will get the pleasure of building this barracks, right? He's prioritizing a bunker. I don't disagree with that either. I'm just really excited for this barracks, and there it is.
Yep, MaxPax is going to go for a Twilight Council. Now, I think this Adept is going to be very important here. Stalker is going to run to the other side of the map. You're going to see that there is a bunker, and you're like, all right, I'm not going to get a whole lot done here. But this Adept is going to shade over and over again towards the top of that ramp for Bunny. Because what you want to see is there a factory there, or do you see nothing but bio units? And sometimes you can get lucky and catch a glimpse of like, hey, there's like 9 Marines there. All right, I know what's going on. You don't need to see barracks number 2 and 3. But this changes everything. Because if you have a Twilight opening and you convince you go up against a factory and you sit at home, you're waiting for that Widow Mine drop or Hellion drop like we saw in the last game, instead it's 20 bio units show up at your front door, the game is over. Like we've all seen that, then you're forced to pull the probes, you lose 20 probes. So it's really, really, really important here for MaxPax that he gets an excellent idea that this is not a factory follow-up, that it is 3 racks, because then you can just start putting your Stalkers on the other side of the map immediately and start shaving up units if Bunny ever moves out.
Yep, and just making sure you haven't cut those units for other things either. We do see a robo on the way right now as this Adept goes for a little bit of a look up and doesn't see much. Just the fact that Rax is still on the reactor, which is something of a tell that at least it's a high Marine count.
Yeah, MaxPax, his mineral bank is going up a little bit. I hope for him that he's not going to drop a Nexus. Sometimes the Protoss players do still just drop that Nexus and they can actually get away with it. They get a shield battery in the natural, shield battery in the third, and it's like, hey, I would have died there, but they make it look easy. This Adept's taking a lot of damage, getting pushed back by 3 Marines. I think at this point, MaxPax is probably thinking like, this could be 3 Rex. It could very well be 3 Rex. But you also don't want to convince yourself it's 3 Rex, just in case there is a medevac out on the map that's going to start dropping stuff in your main base.
What do you think about the Warp Prism? Cool idea if you want to get across and like maybe get into the main, but it's not going to help you at all when the 3 rack shows up, right? So, yeah, for counter potential, sure, but what about surviving the first wave of attack?
I think it's ambitious.
Yeah.
Let's keep it at that. I definitely would have preferred an Observer. I think then you can just get those extra shots off through the side blockers, through the high ground, low ground. The Adept does shade into the main base. MaxPax now knows 100% sure that this was indeed a 3 Rex opening. He does already have that very defensive battery, but he's going to get a second battery because he also knows that if he messes up one time against all these bio units of Bunny, this game could end before it ever even begins. I mean, that Prism is... it's risky.
Yeah, these Marines actually get very close to Stalker, but it does have Blink, of course, so maybe not too exciting as the Marauders show up as well.
What do you even warp in there? Like 2 Zealots and just don't look at them and hope they kill some stuff?
Yeah, I think so. You can't afford to not have Stalkers at home. And you would just need 4 Stalkers to be effective as Bunny committed to this stim, and these batteries aren't doing anything. Super Battery took way too long to come down.
I actually felt like he could have gone for the battery as well. That would have been real bad, but we did have that sentry, and maybe Bunny didn't want to take the risk. The Warp Prism has shown up in the main base. I mean, this is not... Bunny decides to go home. I actually felt that started off really good for him. I mean, he killed 4 Stalkers, buddy. He lost 3 Marines. That is an insane start for a Terran player. And let's not forget that because of this opening and how powerful it is, MaxPax has been too afraid to go up to 3 bases. So it's 46 probes on the side of the Protoss, 48 SCVs for Bunny, 2 base against 2 base. I think it's safe to say this is a phenomenal start for our Korean Terran.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It looked so tempting to keep on going in, but he did start his stim from quite far back, so maybe he just said, my stim is running out very soon, I'm just going to back it up instead of having the second stim. Now he cancels Zealot and decides to go Stalkers, so in we will go for a couple of SCVs as a Marine and a Marauder will stim through to try and help out, and yeah, has to blink back to the Prism. Yeah, this is rough because Bunny started his 3rd CC at the same time as the 3rd Nexus. If he sees that Observer, it's a big snipe.
Yep, excellent. That is really well done, man. That's always when you know that the Terran players are feeling it, that they are focused. I feel like the Korean Terrans, they sometimes miss it when they start playing games at 11 AM. It's like, you know, everything you've been doing, the Protoss is aware of it, but you can see that Bunny is laser sharp at this point. This is also why we started these days a little bit earlier, just to make it a bit more doable for the Koreans. He's playing very well so far. MaxPax is definitely in a bit of trouble. He does have his first Colossus on the way.
Yeah, it's actually his second Colossus on the way. The first one is already out. I like this little drop just sneaking out, but also not flying across the map, just in case it got seen by something, so that the Stalkers don't just jump on it and kill it.
This is bad, man.
Oh, no.
This is really bad. These Stalkers are going to get sandwiched. He blinks forward, nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. All these Stalkers will go down. Maybe one will live to tell the tale. Bunny's like, no, we made this personal. We made it personal now. I want all of them, and he gets all of them. There is a Warp Prism flying into the main base, but this game is just going from bad to worse for MaxPax. Units lost, Wardy. These numbers are ridiculous for a PvT. 2,500 resources going down on the side of MaxPax. Only 450 minerals on the side of Bunny. Bunny's playing a perfect Terran game. My goodness.
No. More Stalkers having trouble. Oh no. You know, that resources lost tab kind of looks like someone played Mass Phoenix and just killed everything. And like,
oh yeah, you killed 12 Overlords and lifted a couple Queens and got a couple of drones. Like, yeah, that's standard, right? Well, not in this matchup.
Not with the bio opening of all things as well. Absolutely ridiculous by Bunny. He was now on the hunt for a Warp Prism along the right side of the map, and he might not get it, but at least he'll chase it away and scare it off. He's stimming one more time, but it is out of there. And Bunny, he's already getting Vikings up and away. MaxPax puts down that Dark Shrine. He absolutely needs the Dark Shrine. He needs something to derail Bunny a little bit because his army ain't going to do it. It won't get the chance.
15 Stalkers have gone down after another Stalker just ran into a random Widowmine. We do still have 10 Stalkers on the map, but that's also why the rest of MaxPax's army is not very impressive. Stalkers are not cheap units. He simply lost way too many of them. There is always a way to loot. Look at the production tab, by the way. That's kind of telling. The one of Bunny is going halfway across the screen, and MaxPax is like, Dark Shrine? Bunny is just going to drop everything into the main base. The absolute definition of a doom drop here. 4 or 5 Stalkers. He does not care. He's going to unpower a couple of these gateways. 10 probes have already gone down. This is all Bunny so far, Wardy.
Yeah, he is just going to have so much classic Bunny move, just picking up and dropping everything in one place. As he gets rid of the Nexus, so many probes. The Dark Shrine could maybe go down. He'll focus on units instead. There's Widowmines and Marauders on the 3rd. He's going to go drop towards the Natural, and of course, these trades have been absolutely fine for Bunny. He will not drop. He'll actually just keep on flying away as units on the 3rd base. And with the Widowmine set up here, these Colossi are going to... Oh my god, the probes as well. Oh no, there's more Widowmines. MaxPax, stop!
Yeah, that would have been an ultimate Terran party there.
Oh, no.
Gotten all 20, but he gets plenty of them. This Warp Prism will also die. My goodness, this is kind of a train wreck of a game for MaxPax.
Widowmine in the 3rd mineral line again is about to go off. Boom. Yep, just keeps on being more and more painful because he lost observers this game. Doesn't have the detection to clean it up. Bunny